Something happened this morning that intelligence agencies on 3 continents are treating as one of the most significant escalation signals of this entire conflict. Iran announced that it had deliberately targeted Benjamin Netanyahu, the sitting Prime Minister of Israel, in a direct missile strike on what it described as a high-security Israeli leadership compound. Let me be precise about what that claim means and what it does not mean, because the gap between the claim and the verified evidence is exactly where this story lives. Iran says it targeted Netanyahu. Netanyahu's office says he was not at the location. Israel has not confirmed the specific compound struck. Independent verification of any element of this claim remains unavailable. That is the factual baseline. Everything else, the strategic logic, the intelligence implications, the escalation architecture it reveals, is what nobody is explaining with sufficient depth. Before we go deeper, hit the subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. This claim, whether it is accurate, partially accurate, or a calculated information operation, changes the psychological and strategic architecture of this conflict in ways that will shape the next 72 hours of decisions by every actor involved. You need to be here when the next development drops. Subscribe now. I will wait. At 4:23 a.m. local time, the IRGC's official Telegram channel posted a statement in Farsi describing a strike on what it identified as the Israeli Prime Ministerial Emergency Command Facility outside Tel Aviv. It described a precision operation using a ballistic missile capable of penetrating hardened underground infrastructure. Iranian state television followed within 11 minutes with a broadcast describing the strike as a message to Netanyahu personally. 2 Iranian military officials then stated directly that Netanyahu was the intended target. That is the Iranian claim in full. Now let me show you what is and is not verified. What is confirmed? A missile strike occurred in the area described. Israeli emergency services responded overnight. The IDF confirmed a ballistic missile was intercepted in that sector, but stated fragments from a partially intercepted missile reached the ground. Israeli media reported an unspecified security site sustained damage. What is not confirmed, whether Netanyahu was present at any point, whether the compound struck is the facility Iranian officials described, whether the missile has the penetrating capability Iran claimed. Netanyahu's office confirmed he is safe without specifying his location at the time of the strike. A real strike, a real security location, a real Israeli emergency response, and competing official narratives. That is the information environment both sides are now operating within. Now, what nobody is covering with sufficient depth. The IRGC's public claim that it targeted Netanyahu is strategically significant regardless of whether it is accurate. The decision to publicly announce an assassination attempt against a sitting head of government is not an operational statement. It is a strategic communication to multiple audiences simultaneously. To the Iranian domestic audience, it demonstrates reach and ambition. To the Israeli public, it is a psychological operation designed to make every citizen ask whether their prime minister is safe. To the international community, it signals that Iran has crossed a threshold it previously declined to cross publicly, the explicit targeting of an enemy head of state. And to the United States, it is a direct message about what Iran's missiles can reach and what Iran is willing to claim it will target. All 4 strategic communications are achieved by the claim itself, independent of its operational accuracy. That is a sophisticated information operation embedded inside a real military strike. Dr. Natan Sachs, director of the Center for Middle East Policy at the Brookings Institution, described this operational communication pattern in his analysis published this morning. He noted that Iran's explicit public targeting claim against Netanyahu serves as an escalatory signal that forces Israel to respond on both the military and political dimensions simultaneously. Israel must now address whether its leadership protection posture is adequate, which diverts significant resources and institutional attention at a moment of maximum operational pressure. It must address the public psychological impact of the claim, which requires visible demonstrations of Netanyahu's presence and continued governmental authority. And it must decide whether this claim constitutes a new escalation threshold that triggers a qualitatively different military response framework. All three requirements impose real costs on Israel that the physical strike alone, without the targeting claim, would not have imposed. The claim is doing work that the missile could not do by itself. Okay, I have to be fair. The other side has a point. First, Iran has consistently overstated the precision and effect of its strikes throughout this conflict. The claim that Iran possesses a ballistic missile capable of penetrating Israel's hardened underground leadership bunkers is not verified by open-source analysis of Iran's documented missile inventory. The gap between what Iran claims its missiles can do and what they have demonstrably done is real. Second, the claim may be primarily for domestic consumption. The new supreme leader faces internal legitimacy questions. A public claim of striking at Netanyahu's location provides a rallying narrative at exactly the moment the IRGC needs to demonstrate strategic boldness. Third, Netanyahu's office issued a denial specific enough to be credible. If Iran had achieved even partial success in striking a location where Netanyahu was present, the Israeli governmental response would look different from what we are seeing. But here is where I have to be direct about what the evidence pattern shows. Real strike, real security location, real Israeli emergency response, and an explicit public Iranian claim of intentional leadership targeting that, even if partially or entirely false as an operational matter, has already achieved 4 separate strategic communication objectives simultaneously. The claim forced Netanyahu to make a public appearance to demonstrate his safety, which is itself an intelligence gift to Iranian planners who now have updated information about his location and movements. It generated global media coverage that amplifies Iran's narrative of strategic reach to audiences in China, Russia, and across the region who are drawing their own conclusions about American and Israeli vulnerability. It imposed a new and immediate security burden on Israeli leadership protection infrastructure that diverts resources at exactly the moment those resources are needed elsewhere. And it established, for the first time in this conflict, a public Iranian declaration that leadership decapitation is an explicit declared war aim. Whether the missile reached its target is almost secondary to what the claim itself has already accomplished. Here is what you need to watch. Netanyahu's next public appearance is the most important immediate signal. The timing, location, and format of that appearance will tell you whether Israel's security establishment believes the targeting claim revealed genuine intelligence about his location and movements, requiring a full protective posture reset, or whether the claim is assessed as an information operation against which a visible public appearance is the appropriate counter. Watch the Israeli military's response designation. If Israel classifies this incident as an assassination attempt in its official communications, that classification triggers a different legal and military response framework than a strike on a military facility. The language Israel uses officially in the next 24 hours will define the response architecture, and watch the American response carefully. The United States has specific treaty and policy commitments regarding attempts on the lives of allied heads of government. How Washington characterizes this incident in its official statements will determine whether the incident is treated as a threshold event requiring a qualitative response escalation or as a serious but contained incident within the existing conflict framework. Subscribe now. Turn on notifications. When Netanyahu's public appearance is confirmed, I will break down what its timing and format tells us. When the Israeli official response designation is issued, I will analyze every word. When the American statement lands, I will cover it immediately. Iran claimed it targeted Netanyahu. The claim itself is already doing strategic work regardless of its operational accuracy. That is the story the breaking news cycle is not giving you. Evidence first, analysis second. You decide what it means. This is today. Watch every word.